Very well, thank you. And you. You too.
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Y'all please silence your phones. Notice it's hereby given a regular meeting in the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District on April 23rd, 2024 at 8 a.m. at the district's office located at 1605 Whitaker Drive, Friendswood, Texas. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand as we do the invocation, pledge of allegiance. Father, I lift up our leaders of our world, our nation, our country, our state, our city, our churches, our households, that they be led by the Holy Spirit, all that they think, say, and do. Christ in my praying. I pledge allegiance to the flag
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you all for being here this morning. Citizens' comments, members of the public are invited to give comments. At this time, last no longer than 3 minutes. Is there anybody that would like to address the board?
First off, good morning, everybody. Last night we had the candidate forum. It went really well. Unfortunately, I'm not sure why, but none of the current board members were able to attend. However, we did have some good discussion between the 4 candidates. The race has narrowed a bit. At the end of the forum last night, Mike Roth announced that he was no longer gonna, actually, Mike, were you gonna speak?
Good.
Sorry. Mike was no longer going to seek election and was supporting David. One thing I received yesterday from several of my friends around town was the following message that I wanted to address. Friendswood residents have waited for the Army Corps of Engineers and the federal government to fund these projects since the mid-1960s. Those opposing Holland, Moffitt, and Gustafson were elected. It would jeopardize these important flood mitigation projects we've waited over 50 years to see underway. In attending meetings the last 2 years, I haven't heard anything about meetings with the Army Corps of Engineers. I haven't heard of any presentations that have been done before the Corps, any meetings that they've been invited to or attended. I think what this boils down to is a way to scare voters into supporting the current line of thinking versus a new line of thinking. I think that if you have a strong record, a strong voting record, a strong position on the board, then that's what you can run. I know the 3 of us have made every attempt to run fact-based, strong campaigns and expect our vision for the future. Something we did last night at the candidate. And it would have been nice to have seen that same from the other three candidates. So I just want to make sure that moving forward, no one falls victim to the scare tactics. Follow the line of thinking, follow everything that's put out by the candidates, and make your decision based off that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Item 5, review and take action on 2022-2023 annual audit report performed by Whitley and Penn. Make a motion for discussion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You have the floor.
I'd like to introduce Stan Hernandez, our auditor.
Thank you. Good morning. You did receive your annual report. I do have a short presentation to summarize that report. These are the results for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2023. This slide here just gives a quick overview of the audit process. We start with our planning. All our audits are risk-based audits. We discuss what has happened with the district, with management, review your minutes. From there, we assess some of your internal control. We get through those internal control understanding. We determine if we're going to test some of those key controls. And then after that, we work through the standard testing, which is more the typical audit work if you would think of performing. And then we render the opinions. On the next slide, we do have a short overview of some of our substantive procedures. Here we have analytical procedures where we're comparing more of Lux ratios, last year's to this year's balances, looking for anomalies. We also have ratio analysis. We do have predictive tests, such as how much property tax you should receive. We use that as a indicator. We also do vouching, which is what a typical people would think of an audit, where we're reviewing back the accuracy, invoices, and possibly bank reconciliations. We also do confirmations, which is a very strong form of substantive procedures for confirming bank statements, investment statements, your taxes amounts. We also receive third-party reports from TCDRS, which is your Texas County District Retirement System. This is for your pension and OPEB numbers, which are needed to prepare the statements under generally accepted accounting. Of course, the purpose of the audit and why we are retained is to issue an opinion on your financial statements. We can render 3 types of opinions. The first type of opinion is a disclaimer, which is really we were not able to gather sufficient evidence to issue an opinion. Next one in the middle is a qualification. We'll be able to complete most of the audit except for a scope limitation or departure from generally accepted accounting principles. The last circle on the right, the unmodified opinion, is also considered a clean opinion, and this is the opinion each entity would like to receive. So for the results of the audit, we are issuing, we did conduct the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. We are issuing an unmodified opinion. That's the clean opinion over the financial statements. This is the highest level of assurance we as auditors can provide that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material aspects. We have no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses to report. So here, this next slide, we do get into some of the numbers. The district is required to present financial statements on 2 bases of accounting. The first basis of accounting is what we call the full accrual basis of accounting. This is how a business would show their financial statements. It shows all the items the district owns and owes. So we do have capital assets on this statement. We do have your long-term liabilities, which would be your pension and your OPEB, your other post-employment benefits, and it does give the net worth of the district. So just to go through some of the numbers at the top, your total assets ended up at approximately $16.4 million. That was down about $747,000 from the prior year. Your largest assets are your current and other assets. This is your cash and investments. That was ended at approximately $8.6 million. Your capital assets, which is your land, your buildings, your equipment, ended at approximately $7.8 million. The capital assets were up approximately 1.3. The cash and investments were down about $2 million. So you really just move your assets from a liquid cash asset to a capital asset when you purchase items. You also have deferred inflow of resources of $168,000. This is related to pension and OPEB. You're required to disclose this information in order to get an unmodified clean opinion. In the middle of the page, you have your total liabilities of approximately $1.1 million. That was up about $186,000 for the prior year, and that was mostly driven by additional accounts payables and your current liabilities. You also have deferred inflows of resources of $51,000. Once again, this is related to pension, OPEB, and related accounts. That resulted in a total net position of the district of $15.4 million, which was down approximately $681,000 from the prior year. So that's basically your balance sheet on a full accrual basis. This next statement is a modified accrual basis of accounting. This is for your general fund. This is the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund balance. This is the basis that you do most of your accounting and your budgeting for the district. So this one here has no long-term assets. You see no capital assets, and you see no long-term liabilities on this statement. It does have your revenue and expenses on this statement. Your total revenues there at the top portion of the schedule is approximately $7.1 million. Your revenues were up approximately $973,000 for the fiscal year, and your big drivers were your property tax up about $489,000, and investment earnings were up to $485,000. So that increased over $400,000 on your investment earnings. Of course, that was driven by market conditions. Your total expenditures at the bottom portion of the report ended up at $9.1 million. Your largest expenses are your repairs and maintenance of approximately $6.4 million. This was for work that you did on your various ditches. You also had capital outlay, that was land, equipment of $1.4 million, and that was up approximately $1.1 million from the prior year. Total revenues of $7.1 million less your $9.1 million of expenditures resulted in a $2 million excess of expenditures over revenue. That reduction of the beginning fund balance of $9.7 million resulted in your $7.7 million ending fund balance for your general fund. This next slide has some budget to actual numbers. Your actual revenues, as we just discussed, of $7.1 million, were more than budgeted by approximately $933,000, which is a positive variance. Actual expenditures of $9.1 million were more than budgeted by $165,000, resulting in a negative variance. So some of the aspects of your ending fund balance of the general fund at September 30th was 5.5 was assigned for capital projects. That means you set aside that money for those items. 30,000 was non-spendable, and then 2.3 million is unassigned, and that equals 90 days of your operation or expenditure. So you can operate for approximately those 90 days without receiving additional monies to operate the district. This next slide here just shows the chart on your unassigned fund balance, one indication of the health of the district. You have a policy of retaining 90 days in your unassigned general fund balance, which you were able to meet. This also indicates one of the larger government accounting associations recommends a minimum of 30 days of unassigned fund balance and a good maximum of 90 days. The district is meeting these recommendations. We also have some required communications to the governance. We also we did have an engagement letter that we signed with the district in December 7th of 2023. All of our audits does contain audit risk. So what we always consider an audit risk in every one of our engagements is management overrides or controls and improper revenue recognition. We did not note any other significant audit risks with the district. We did review your accounting policies and methods, and we feel those are appropriate and within standards. We had no difficulties or disagreements with management, and we are independent of the district. One of the last pieces of audit evidence we do receive or request is a management representation letter where we're asking management to confirm that they have provided all the information that we have requested. We also are not aware of any consultations with other auditors. In other words, that do not go out for opinion shopping. We do, during the course of the audit or the year, have discussions with the districts on accounting or financial or auditing standards. We do not believe our response was a reason for our retention. There is estimates in the financial statements, not every number in the financial statements can be traced to an invoice, a cash receipt. So we do have estimates related to your pension and OPEB liabilities and allowance for doubtful accounts. That's really what I had at this point. Take any questions you have.
Any questions?
Who did you talk to during the year? Who did you engage with at the district performing this audit throughout give me your time frame that you were on this task, and who did you exactly talk to during the process?
So we come in, we talked with Joseph and Kathy. We discussed what has happened during the year. We discussed possible accounting changes for the year. We review your minutes, but generally we're looking at it from a financial statement audit. And those are the main representatives of the district.
What was your time frame conducting this audit?
We came out, we signed the engagement letter in December. I believe we did start some of our audit procedures in December, and then it took us all the way, I believe, till February to prepare most of the financial statements.
Do you engage or solicit any input from board members at all?
We did send out what we call board questionnaires, and you should have received the questionnaire. Should have had some related party conflict of interest type questions, or if you felt like there was any areas that you wanted to discuss or concerns about the audit or the organization, and we received those type of responses. I don't remember who we received here, but we do try to send out a couple of requests. We don't make it a requirement. You have to, but it is your opportunity to talk to us.
I haven't had a chance to read the whole audit, but I look forward to reading that here in the next end of week. I picked up my packet this past weekend, but thanks for your work. I appreciate it.
We're available for any questions
You're
you
not
may have.
prepared to vote on it today,
I want to read the full
so
audit.
that's a no.
That's correct. Well, yeah, I want to be both. I want to read the full report, but I appreciate your time and your.
So if there was $10 million missing, you'd know about it, right?
We should know about it based on our procedures. We do get some of the better, we do some of the better audit evidence through confirmations. So we did confirm your cash balances. We did confirm your investment. And that's evidence we're receiving from an outside party, an external party, versus getting reconciliations, bank statements inside the district. A lot of those PDFs or information could be manipulated. Once we go to that third party external, we have significantly higher level of confidence that those numbers are correct.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
And how long have you been doing the audit for the district?
Probably I've been doing, I'm going to say 5+ years, because I've been on and off the district. Some years I'm not the manager on the district audit. So, but the firm has been doing the audit itself for, I would say, yeah,
20 years?
I would think so. It was previously the firm that I'm working with now, Whitley Penn, merged with Griffin Isles, Noel Larison. So there has been firms that have merged up into the current practice.
I've reviewed the audit. I'm happy with it, and I'll be moving forward with approving it. Any other questions?
I have a question. Based on the board member questionnaire submittals, do you recall any reports of any potential conflicts of interest?
I did not recall that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I just like to read the full audit before I put on it, the full report you gave there, but I appreciate it once again, your time and your efforts.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, so to be 4-1. Review and take action on Sedora Acres final plat pro serve. Very motion.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Scott, you got the floor.
Sure. So this is an existing tract of land that they're proposing to create two single family lots on. It's off near 51 Garden. You can see here from the city map. And after review, it meets the district's criteria for short form, which is straight to final, right? Anything that's 3 or 4 lots or less.
Where's the frontage? The city will,
They have frontage here and on Sedora. So this lot,
so, yeah, on that second lot,
Yeah.
lot 1, it's got Sedora.
yeah, and this
Lot 2,
has Garden Drive here.
correct.
Yeah.
Now, based on the city's requirements, I don't think they got enough frontage.
So they've got this 60 by 180 private ingress egress. So
Is that gonna be a cul-de-sac or what's it gonna be?
yeah, it's probably, by the looks of it, it would probably be a hammerhead turnaround.
Yeah, it's not shown on here.
Correct. It's just flat. Yeah. So they have their required frontage on a private ingress egress for the city's criteria. So I think that's why they're able to do it.
Does everybody understand the point? When you subdivide, you need to have the minimum frontage. Correct.
Rusty.
I think we did something like that back in the Forest of Friends back there, possibly in the back where the manholes are.
Any other discussion for Scott? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed. Item C, review and take action on Friendswood Trail Section 5 preliminary plat, Everest Design Group LLC. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Scott?
Sure. So this is a continuation of Friendswood Trails subdivision. As you know, that another developer modified the DIA for this development, and this plan follows the plan. The master plan hasn't been approved as well for the city. After review of the plat, everything meets the board's criteria. The preliminary drainage plan is still under review right now.
Joseph, is this what we talked about years ago with them about diverting? Remember?
About where the bypass was coming. That pond's just been built.
Yeah.
That pond's in place now.
So is this going into it? To go
It's on the
around?
opposite side of the bypass.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bypass is
What I mean, yeah.
Yeah, this is on the south side of it.
So the outfall that it shows there,
I would assume that
yeah,
the outfall is gonna come right here. Here's.
right through their reserve.
Yes, sir.
Is there another spot over this way? Isn't there a reserve?
There's a reserve,
That
their
road?
frontage, the city and the district required a minimum of 20-foot frontage on a public right of way or private ingress egress for.
Access?
Yes, sir.
That answers the
I
question.
believe
I
there's no
have.
one here.
Yeah. They're labeled as reserves.
Correct. Yeah, I did make a note that we're gonna have to figure this out on the final. They have this 15-foot water line easement coming through the detention reserve. If they want to keep like that, they're gonna have to come to the board for a variance
Or relocate.
or relocate it, correct?
Any other discussion on the preliminary plat? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Show it to be unanimous. Item 6, is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to remove? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Operations.
staying busy mowing, talked to me. And, on the Marys Creek project, at 2351, we just moved out of there yesterday. They should be hydro mulching it today, grass seeding it, and we moved him over here off of Fallen Leaf, Lincoln Lane. I had a part of the bank about 150, 200 feet long that just sloughed off real bad, so we're gonna rebuild that. Then the other contractor's still working at Quaker's Landing, making progress there. And like I said, just the mowing crews. Yes,
You talked about that Bears Creek. Was there any discussion with anybody about why we did slope paving there? Somebody said that we wouldn't put concrete there. Can you explain why the concrete's there?
well, before the concrete was there was articulating blocks. And with my experience over whatever period of time, the blocks, they start moving with the ground and stuff. And once they get a path of water that goes up underneath them, it'll roll them up and take them out just like a Band-Aid. And the reason we got slope paving there is because it's greater than a 90-degree turn. And to be able to protect that bank, that's why we had to go with the slope paving.
Otherwise, it would.
Would have been repairing it every other year problem. And we've had to do this in different places and sometimes you can't get away without using concrete because of that's what's needed to protect that bank.
That's coming out of the bypass coming underneath Kroger. So
And the creek.
you're bringing a lot of water through the conduits, right? Goes from an open ditch on the opposite side of 518 of that. So you got high velocities right there, plus a hard bend. So there's a lot of energy there you got to dissipate, and it's either going to go in the bank if it's dirt, or you're going to dissipate in that hard armor and that concrete pavement.
And prior to us doing this, there was a house there, 212 East Heritage. It was cantilevered out over it.
Correct.
So the prior administration 6 years ago was working to buy that house. This administration got that house.
That's correct.
We were concerned about that block paving falling in the creek. So we came on around, we got the purple house.
We've got the purple house that was up there off of 2351. And by doing that, then we were able to shelve all of that area to add more inline detention. And I think that area right there, after we finished up with everything, it's a little over, added 12 acre feet of stormwater storage for inline.
And going up the creek where we fixed all the
From there all the way up to the Dunbar.
all the way up.
Did all the slope paving up to Dunbar. Y'all recall? That bank on the east side was just straight up and down and was encroaching on fences and stuff. So had to go in and dig all that, reestablish the slope, and then put slope paving on that as well.
And the Kroger pond.
And the Kroger pond, went in and redid that pond, and so it won't fail.
The pond that nobody knows who owned.
Yeah,
And then we went on up to the Pearland city limits.
that's good.
Tell me about Friendswood Regional Stormwater Detention.
It goes back a little while. When we first started, the district and the city and Galveston County all partnered up with the Harris County Flood Control to create this, I'm gonna call it the FM 1959 project. And going through meetings and engineering and all this stuff, you know, it's been a long time for it to get moving, but finally they started, you know, clearing it and grubbing it and all that stuff. And but it's progress going on with it, so that'll be a benefit to Friendswood.
Prior to that, we did a interlocal agreement with Harris County Flood Control to get over on the other side of the creek.
Yes, we did a local agreement, which was the first time ever that we were able to work on Harris County Flood Control side, and we did some underbrushing and along Clear Creek to open it up.
Remove some trees that were down that we couldn't get from our side.
But then, you know, then like back in 2009, a lot of folks don't understand, but we take care of some of Dickinson Bayou area as well. And so 2009, the district approached the property owner. It was old sand pit, 71 acres, out on what's called Madera Ditch. The district paid for the property, which was $400 and something thousand, but then the county and League City partnered up and they helped pay to construct the pond. Now it's a 620 acre foot of storage for stormwater.
So we have a better relationship today with Harris County Flood Control than we've ever had.
Yes,
That was very good.
That's okay.
As far as the Army Corps of Engineers, we're on our third general. It's been said that we don't dialogue with them.
I mean, in the past, I have to work with them on projects and stuff.
And going forward,
And when we're doing projects and we've got to get the Corps involved, we use Steve McElwain. And he coordinates with the Corps and stuff, and he's been working with them for, 20, 30 years. And so he's got a good relationship, and then he reports back to Scott and I on what's needed for the permits and stuff, and that's how we communicate with them.
that's how we've made the progress that we did so far.
Before that, before I met Steve and learned the Corps rules about where you can and can't work. That's why we were able to do all the repairs and stuff, actually, because we've learned that if you stay above the ordinary high water mark, well, then that's out of the Corps' jurisdiction. And at times you still got to worry about wetlands and stuff, but that's why Steve McElwain, he'll come and he'll identify if there's any wetlands, and he actually comes in and he actually marks the OHWM, and then he GPS's the land. So I have a file on him.
I recall, we got an email from the Corps. Was it 2 years after we had completed the Imperial Estates? Wanted to know where our permit was.
Yeah, and it's funny because about a year and a half before that, Steve and I met with him out there.
Yeah.
And they gave us a letter of no objection, that we were good. And so when we got that email, I sent it over to Steve, and he took care of it, and it was taken care of with like that. So.
Tell me about Castlewood offline detention pond. What's the progress on that last pond?
That's probably 40% right now, and the other two are complete. And again, that was city buyout property that we were able to utilize and put offline detention in it. And, look forward to doing some more. And, it's not just about one huge big project that's going to take care of everybody's problems. It's multiple projects, and that in the long run, they all come together and they'll give a big benefit.
Quaker's Landing?
Quaker's Landing, again, that was buyout property that we're doing inline shelving on that as well. And that's probably, again, about 40% complete.
What kind of problems did you run into over there?
Who? Gas lines, 5 times after we did a one call. And they'd come mark it, and they'd start digging, we'd hit gas. That's 5 times. And then we found a sewer line there that we had to work with the city to get rerouted. But there was a lot of holdups on that with just and a communication cable as well.
But we didn't have to acquire any property because it already existed. So
That's correct.
good. Deepwood?
Deepwood, there was a house on stilts that the district went in and purchased, and there was a total of 7 lots, I think. And then the city bought some of the old shacks that were on the stilts there. And sad to say that the house that we bought, before we could tear it down, it caught on fire. One of the firefighters lost his life after the fire. But we went in and after the fire marshal's office gave me clearance to go in and take it down. We took it down and then we did a lot of clearing in there and getting it ready for a shelving project.
That'll be done by the city and it'll encompass the old public work.
That's correct.
Tell me about the barge.
Back in '09, after Ike, we had the barge come in and did all the cleaning up on Clear Creek. So I called the guy that had the barge, he's in Alvin. Well, he just sold the barges. The guy in Louisiana. And caught it just in time because he was fixing to move him to Louisiana. And so instead of that, they moved him here and they have to go to Dickinson and put him in with Dickinson Bayou and drive it up here. But they were here and they did a clearing along the creek's edge on Clear Creek, all the way up to 2351. That's as far as we could get. At the same time, anything that they could deal and find underwater, they removed that as well. And I went back and looked, and on that total came out with that and hauling all the debris to Novus where they recycle is $538,000. That's what that costs.
Took some time to put together because of the ownership transfer, correct?
Yeah, and the barges they sit, when these guys bought it, these barges been sitting for 7 or 8 years. So when they got them here, they had a lot of repairs to do on them. So there was 2 barges. We just had one down here. So every time something would break down on this barge, they'd go back to the old barge and route parts off of it. Well, finally they ran out of parts to route, so then they had to start finding different ways to fix it. But they did a good job.
Joseph, how many miles of creek did they clear
It was about 7 miles.
on both sides?
Yes, sir.
Moved like 6,000 tons of stuff.
It came out between 25 and 30,000 cubic yards.
So that was a good desnagging job.
Yes. And one thing, when we start doing our vegetation control, when they come in, we've got a boat set up with a spray rig in it.
Yeah.
And we'll get them and then we'll go down the creek and spray both sides and with herbicide. So to kind of protect the investment.
How long did it take to get them to come over here? A couple of years?
The barge. Well, when I started calling around, because we were talking about getting it, and I started calling Clyde, and he said, well, I just sold them. So it was a couple of months probably, yeah.
How we doing on the Friendswood master plan with the city?
Your drainage plan?
Scott might be able to help.
So, we're still waiting on FEMA to approve the money that we're going after, right?
I have it in my update.
She doesn't have that, but that's my understanding. That's where we're at. So
Monitoring,
unfortunately, there's been no progress on the actual drainage plan itself.
we had a deadline of December last year, right? And then they got funding from FEMA. So we're gonna be discussing how we can work together with the city to move that along. Because we originally thought it'd take 6 months to get done. And we'll probably need to visit that here soon.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else got anything for Joseph?
Joseph, on that barge, I think we had that discussion a year and a half ago. I can't remember quite the meeting on that. But we discussed about how we need to probably make it on schedule to run that barge up and down the creek every 4 years, if I remember correctly, no matter what, after every major storm event. Is my recollection pretty close on that? Or
Yeah.
People that were here?
Yeah.
I think that was about a year and a half ago when we spearheaded that. So once we had that meeting, we had that discussion about a year and a half ago. I think it took us a couple of months to round up that guy to drive down the Alvin to Louisiana connection.
Yep.
The repairs, the desnagging, which is one of the major legs of the median study, I believe, in the Rice after in 2018, when we had our commission, which was desag, desill, and of course the bypass that they wanted to come up with. Another question, we're forced here to mitigate a lot of water, at least they want us to before, of course, we pass a lot of waters down the creek. That's not exactly all water coming into our city. how much water is the Friendswood Regional Detention Basin gonna capture from our district?
From our district, it won't capture, it's gonna be everything that's coming downstream to hold it before it gets.
It's zero. Zero. So as citizens of Friendswood, that, I just want to make you aware that we're paying for, so is the county of Galveston, which there's been some consternation there also. We're paying for a project to capture water that's not ours coming down here. And I think I've had some discussions with some people where, that's sometimes those standards aren't exactly the same for Friendswood and our citizens as they are for what we're being asked to pay for. The project was originally scheduled to be 1,700 acre feet of detention. Now, they're really not sure how big it's going to be. It could be half the size, it could be a third. This was discussed in city council not too long ago by Griffon, I think 2 meetings ago. But I just want people to be aware that Galveston County, the city of Friendswood, and the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District, along with Harris County, is detaining water that is coming from the north. It's not Galveston County's water. It's not the city of Friendswood's water. It's not our district's water. So we need to keep that in mind when people are asking us to slow the conveyance roll through our city from water that's coming in from the north that's not ours. Because we're being asked not only to slow our roll sometimes, but we're being asked to be ransomed and held ransom to water coming down here that we don't want, because we already have a problem here with flooding spreading throughout our city because we're in a pinch point in Hourglass. So I'd like to make sure that everybody understands that. And when it's time to play ball with all the agencies that Friendswood, we've taken our lumps down here.
But at the same time, Steve, if we wouldn't have that pond up there,
That's silly.
Really?
That's preposterous.
Phosphorus. So
Water runs downhill.
I don't understand it either.
So it's,
Anything is
Just because you say it doesn't mean it's true.
May I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is really an issue.
Laura, she has the floor.
no, I had the floor, sir.
No, you don't.
I
She
did.
had the floor. No, you
I'll wait
stop
till Director
talking and I took
Burkhead is
it.
done.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I will wait till
You're-
Director Burkhead is done and then I'll make my request.
Go ahead, Teresa.
It's ridiculous.
Is Rusty done?
I think so. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Rusty, are you? Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
All right. The water is going to come through our community. The detention basin on FM 1959 will hold a large quantity of it and allow it to come through our community rateably at a rate that is controlled by the outfall of that pond. It will not come in one big onslaught and flood. It will come rateably and will go downstream to the downstream jurisdictions rateably. It is intended to control to store until it can pass through safely within the capacity of the stream. And I think it's important to understand that. Regarding the ultimate volume of that basin, we're still waiting on a jurisdictional determination from Army Corps of Engineers. Over the past 2 decades, there have been a lot of fluctuations in terms of the legal definition of waters of the US and jurisdictional wetlands. Recently, and it seems like that definition does fluctuate with who is in the White House and the policies of their administration. So in May of 2023, the US Supreme Court ruled on a definition of waters of the US and jurisdictional wetlands that required wetlands to have a continuous service connection with the nearby water. So it is taking time for that definition, the current legal definition, to be implemented by the Army Corps. But it's something that we are working on, and it will take time. I think they're still looking for internal guidance on how they are going to implement this new definition, which is why we've asked for the jurisdictional determination. That determination will ultimately determine the size of that basin and how much of that ground is off limits due to jurisdictional wetlands. And we have the same situation in the Forest of Friendswood Pond expansion. Anywhere where there's a concern about wetlands, it's pending on how this new definition is ultimately going to be implemented, and it takes time. So I just felt it was important to make that clarification because I've seen and heard the discussion that it's just a fraction of what the original size. Now, the first phase is going to be 700 acre feet. We ultimately will have a second phase that will address whatever additional acreage is available to us. And I really think that point needed to be made. And then my second comment is just thank you for clearing the obstruction in the ditch near the Forest of Friendswood front pond. The nearby homeowners were happy to see. I'm done. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, sure. Thank you. What happens, Scott, Joseph? So what happens when, since the water won't run through here, what happens when we have a multi-day storm event that exceeds the level of that detention pond? Where does that water run? And how's it come? And how fast?
I mean, that's a difficult question to answer, that's because there's a lot of variables there, right? How intense is the storm? How, what's the intensity, the duration of it, those types of things. What is it upstream? What is it downstream? Right? All those things affect the conveyance of the creek and the amount of water that's actually in the pond. So, as engineers, we design these things to control the 100-year flood, right? You try to go to a storm above that, it just becomes not cost effective, right? You can't afford to do it. So you take the risk that you could afford to do, and you design to that. And anything above that is what do you do, right? What do we do?
So what do you do? So was 79 year flood?
No, that was more than 100 year.
Was 2001 year flood?
It was more than, I think the intensities were more.
Was 2017 year flood?
That was definitely more.
These ponds anywhere near designed to save Friendswood or save anywhere down here from devastating flooding or problems. I just want to be clear
Sure.
that I understand Teresa's point, and that's how a lot of stuff is designed here with New Atlas 14 standards. But to the point of the people in the third of Friendswood flood, I'm just being honest. We've seen these live fire exercises. So what's happening with these detention ponds when you have these multi-day events that flood?
So a couple of things we need to look at here. Let's talk about the drainage area of Clear Creek as a whole.
The hydraulic.
The drainage area,
Right.
right? The actual overall area of Clear Creek, the area draining to it is massive, right? Unfortunately, Friendswood is downstream, right, of most of it. So to do one project that's going to have a huge impact isn't cost effective. So, but you string these projects together as you can afford it and as you can acquire land, and overall, as they work together, they make a larger impact, right? So I think it's important to look at those things. Again, when you look at a Harvey event, there's no way to design that other than elevation, right? Elevating structures, getting them out above that flood elevation. Another thing we gotta look at is at that water surface elevation in Clear Creek during the Harvey event. At that point, that floodplain is a lot larger, right? So we probably take another Harvey event on top of that Harvey event to come up another half a foot in water surface elevation. That makes sense, right? Because we're talking about a bowl. So you're talking about a volume. The larger your area is, the less the depth is going to be. So.
With the development up north and what's going on with Mud Gully and everything that's happening up there, do you think, in your opinion, that they're capturing a lot of that water that will fill up that detention basin that will come there quicker, new development that probably not accounted for before 2017? So in other words, how much new water is going to actually be coming down through all the improvements that's going to fill up that basin, especially at a fraction of the size?
There should be no new water coming downstream, right? Everything, every jurisdiction that we're surrounded by has criteria for you to detain up to the 100-year stormwater event on site.
Up to the 100-year once again.
Correct. Yeah.
But after that, it's going to run downhill.
It's going to have an extreme event overflow, right? And it's not going to be the extreme event totally coming down, right? Because you're still storing the 100 years, so it's going to be a modified version of that.
Good.
I have.
Go ahead,
If I may.
Teresa.
Additionally, the green infrastructure that are the detention basins will absorb some water. I wanted to make that distinction. Scott, for our next meeting, would you be willing to work up an example to illustrate the difference in cost between designing for a 100-year storm versus what's required to design for a 500-year storm? And just one small project, even a theoretical project, just to illustrate the difference in cost. And then have, so people will understand that and then decide if they're willing to spend the extra money to go to that 500-year design. I think it's a distinction that not everybody understands, and an example that illustrates it might be very helpful.
Also, would you explain during your presentation next time, would you like to get during one of our presentations, explain the difference between hydrology and the Clear Creek watershed, and then the difference between hydraulics, which is more of the flow and what's going on post examining that watershed. And you can do that with Dickinson, we can do that with Clear Creek, we can do it with San Jacinto, we can do it with anything. But if you would make sure you encompass the background before you get into the cost and what's going on, I would appreciate it.
So to make sure I understand this, you want me to look historically at the hydraulics and hydrology of the drainage area for Clear Creek?
And how it's changed and how it's changed and what exactly is going to be the impact on that third, like you're saying, raise the homes, move, whatever. But I don't know in Friendswood if that's possible for a third of it. You know, it's possible, it's expensive. Everything's expensive. We know that everything is expensive nowadays. So just when you're analyzing that, if you could just historically, I don't want you to go back.
So the elevation thing, you know, to be completely honest, that's something I'm passionate about. You'll never detain yourself at a risk, right? You end up taking up 50% of the land area down along the creek, you know, to even make impact, correct? And it's billions and billions of dollars spent there. So if you really are concerned about limiting the loss of infrastructure and structures, elevation, in my professional opinion, is the only way to do it economically. Makes sense.
As you can see, some of us up here have built up pretty high. So we're thinking, about that. But unfortunately, we have a lot of older homes and a lot of older neighborhoods in Friendswood that are in the bullseye, whether it's economically, they're not able to move up. You know, we have to solve these issues with what we have. And that's the thing. It's not an easy issue, but we need to receive and have less water rise here in Friendswood. And we need to get to that point. I don't think anybody on this board is trying to, it's a hard and difficult problem. However, we have to account, we cannot receive any more water here in Friendswood whatsoever, not a drop more, because we need to mitigate and get out, convey, soak up, do what we can to lower the water level here, which is proven over 40 or 50 years to be very difficult.
Yeah, yes, sir. And really that Friendswood Regional Detention Pond being the location it is, right? As soon as it comes into the city limit, it's the perfect location for that. Try to take that water flow off downstream as much as we can, right? Couldn't work out better.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're holding water north of Friendswood on land that doesn't have houses. So nobody's losing their house for a detention pond. I'll give you a simple example. Any of you have had a roof leak in your house. When you had that roof leak, after you called a plumber, you probably put a bowl under it or a roofer until the roofer got there. Well, 1959 is your roof leak. The bowl is south at a lower elevation, Poly Ranch. If you don't patch the roof and pull that water off, you might as well just dig up a large area because you don't have much capacity down there. that make it simple, you're gonna have to store all that water down there. So it's prudent to work north to south to hold water out of Friendswood. And what I'm hearing is other people's water, it's water. That creek's gonna continue to run. It's gonna come down here and go south. It doesn't go north. So detained water mud gully during Harvey was almost finished. 1959, other projects up north in Pearland are holding water now that they weren't holding water back then. So yes, we've done a collective effort with Harris County Flood Control, DD4, Galveston County, City of Friendswood. These projects that we just kind of went highlight over, they're in progress. There's other projects that are completed. So stay the course, folks, and you'll reduce flooding in Friendswood.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's troublesome.
Well, that's okay. You're not allowed to interrupt right now. Okay? You've had your chance to speak.
I wanted all of you to do the same. Just unfortunate. I apologize for not being.
Big city gets Friendswood water.
Yeah, and they sat in here for a long time and stared at us and they don't want it either. Long time. They still don't want it.
Let's keep our decorum here.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, any other questions for Joseph? Yeah,
Got some reviews in. There is a project that is going to Hardball Baseball Academy coming down here at Lundy. Just FYI, they've submitted plans since 2022. I think it's time. It's a difficult site to develop. They're basically going to berm their proposed ball field. So during an extreme event, it will hold water as their pinch basin, right? I'm trying to use most of the land. Unfortunately, they're going to have to ask the board to have improvements within its pinch basin, basically a dual use pond, right? So just look for that hopefully by the next board meeting. Samantha has an update that the district submitted a bridge application for environmental and engineering design of Blackhawk inline and offline project on April 15th to the Texas Water Development Board Flood Infrastructure Fund. So we'll give you more updates as that progresses. She's also, Kay Freaks is trying to set up time to visit with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to come up with some coordination with the district. So we'll be looking for that. Other than that, that's everything I have that's new. Does anybody have any questions for me?
how's the backlog?
On
Current, anything working in the system?
review wise, there are comment letters out, but I don't think I'm sitting on anything to review right now.
Any progress on the subdivision by the gun range?
Yes, sir. They've submitted, they did submit a water line and force main plan. Unfortunately, they misidentified Dixon Bayou, and there's a part of right of way that they need to take into account. And they're trying to put the water line right alongside the north bank of Dixon Bayou. Noted that in my review to them. Haven't heard back, so let's see.
Anything percolating on that 124 acres there?
No, sir.
Any questions for Scott?
I have a question. Have you received any additional information regarding the project on Wilderness Trails from the last meeting?
No, ma'am.
Good. Okay. City Council liaison, Trish.
Yes, good morning. I'm here for Robert Gavon. He sent his apologies. He couldn't make it this morning. We have nothing new to report, but I appreciate the partnership between you and the city. I think it serves our community well, and thank you for your service.
Thank you very much, City Engineer. Heather?
Jill could not make it today. He apologizes. So for our update, the crate myrtles with the city partnering with the district, the ones at Blackhawk got completed this weekend. We're just needing some hydro seeding out there. The ones out at the church, they're still in progress at that property. Avalon Section 3, the infrastructure is complete. Council should be accepting that soon. House plans have been submitted for the city to review. Georgetown infrastructure plans are under review. We're finalizing the utility services agreement. Friendswood Trails Section 3 infrastructure is complete and they are starting on the roadways. The master drainage plan. We did receive the famous letter from FEMA. Funds have been awarded. We are working through, there is a paperwork process that we have to do to accept the funds. Me and Mo have been working on that diligently to get that started. We all know FEMA loves paperwork and loves a process. So we are diligently working on that, and please reach out to us as y'all discussed earlier. Let's see, the other thing I have to update on is the Tano City Center. They had a ribbon cutting last week. Harris County Flood Control District is reviewing that currently, and we've been notified that their review should be complete in about 3 to 4 weeks.
Any questions for Heather?
I have a question, Heather. Do you know approximately how long that paperwork process is expected to take following the receipt of the letter from FEMA for the master drainage?
It takes, me and Mo will have the paperwork submitted to them probably tomorrow.
Mhm.
And then as soon as we get a kickoff meeting scheduled with them, which me and Hill are pushing for, we then enter into the RFQ process. So that takes anywhere from 20 to 30 days to go through that process. So I would say we're a good probably 2 months out from hiring a consultant on it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Richard? P and Z, anything?
No, nothing to report.
Thank you. Lake City.
How y'all doing
Thank you,
today?
Matt.
Westland Ranch, just an update on the progress out there. On the north side of the development, we've got sections 2 and a combined section of 8 and 9 that are in construction, progressing towards completion. The east-west collector, which is Muldoon Parkway, the phase 4 extension of that, which is the extension to the property boundary of this development. I'd say that's about probably 80% done. Utilities have been installed. Most of the paving has been completed. There's some paving gaps to be completed, but that one's getting close. And then on the southern portion of the development, you've got Magnolia Bayou, which is the north-south collector, which will eventually hit 517. That utilities have been installed. Paving contractor should be moving in shortly. And then the Lakes of Westland Ranch, we call it section 6A, 6B, but same thing with that section. Utilities have been installed. The same paving contractor is doing Magnolia Bayou will be doing that section as well. So that paving contractor should be moving in shortly. And then the expansion of that detention pond on the southern portion, or the Lakes of Westland Ranch, that their work is almost complete, pretty close. And then just to give you guys an update on the legacy development. Those of you familiar with the 2 lanes of League City Parkway that's missing in front of Mad Creek Golf Course. That project's probably 80% complete. There's some sidewalks left to be installed and some other things, but we're getting close on those missing 2 lanes. And then also that legacy developer is also making the connection on League City Parkway or completing that gap between Friendswood. And the utilities have been installed. they're preparing for paving, doing some forming and whatnot. That paving hasn't started yet. And then we have issued approved plans and had a pre-construction meeting for Legacy's rough cut, so to speak. They're gonna just start getting their dirt work going on getting those ponds started. But just for info purposes, Legacy, we've indicated to them that those League City Parkway roadways need to be in place. Of course, the drainage and detention needs to be in place before any of those sections get started. But we're in receipt of quite a few plans for various sections for that Legacy development.
So you got some preliminary plats coming our way.
Sure. I think that covers everything on y'all's end. If y'all, I'm here if you got any questions, concerns for me.
And Matt, when, I know I had a small procedure that day, so, I know I'll talk to you about it, but when you talked to Mr. Johnson and the Dixon Valley Watershed Committee, were they satisfied with, because I've flown over, have some good pictures when I go west about that dirt work you're talking about, how that's been ongoing over those ponds, about their silting questions coming at Dixon Valley. I know that's been a big concern of theirs for going back many months, but when you made that presentation, were they satisfied with y'all's countermeasures out there?
Yeah, I think the presentation went, made a good effort at putting them at ease. They had some concerns regarding some discoloration of water, which leads them to believe that there's some siltation and sedimentation going on. I reassured them that I've got one guy that his whole focus and his job duties are nothing but SW3P. But we put that area on his, higher on his watch list, so to speak. But I tell you, League City has some high criteria when it comes to SW3P, siltation, reinforced silt fencing, sorry, and inlet protection barriers. We keep a heavy eye on that stuff because again, we that all falls into our CRS program and whatnot. So we'll keep an eye on that stuff.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. Any other questions for Matt? Regional floodplain correspondent? Yeah, Peggy.
Good morning, everybody. Since we have such a good crowd here today, I would like to personally thank the GCCDD for allowing an agenda item on the regional flood planning. The reason why I think it is so important is for those of us who are downstream, I think we all appreciate that there are the challenges that go with working from a regional standpoint. And I'm from League City, so I am the recipient of almost everything that's going on in the watershed. And that's okay. I chose to live there. But I will say one of the things and the lessons learned from the 60s on is that as we work toward trying to resolve our issues, if we can do it from a regional standpoint, recognizing that as we have had major weather events, the standards have been raised. There has been validation that the stakeholders along the watershed, Clear Creek watershed, are all working toward the same criteria. And that's really important. I'm not sure we've had that before, and we're validating that as we go forward. So I personally thank you for allowing this report to go forward. And in Rusty, to address the sedimentation issue, and at the last meeting, I thanked Matt for his outstanding presentation. As we were discussing that, and this is on the Dickinson Bayou watershed, I became aware of a report that was done in the 2012-2013 timeframe by the University of Houston, and it is specifically on the Dickinson Bayou watershed sedimentation issue. So as we were talking in the committee meeting, I think that there may be some worthwhile discussions that could take place to see if there might be efforts by the University of Houston to do some sort of follow-up study on that sedimentation for the Dickinson Bayou watershed. So it was taken very seriously. A lot of discussion is underway. And I think as we talk more, we will move toward a direction of trying to figure out if there is additional information available and resources to tap into. Talking about the Gulf Coast Protection District, we had a meeting last week. Former Senator Taylor is now a member of that committee. He is replacing Bo Caroga, who died a couple of months ago. And Senator Taylor will bring a lot of value to that committee as a director because he was the elected official at the state level who first came up with the idea and sponsored the GCPD, the Gulf Coast Protection District. So I think when we all look back and look at the progress of where we are with GCPD, Larry was certainly instrumental in getting that body in place to begin with. And we always needed to have that body in place as a sponsor so we could begin to work toward the coastal feasibility study. The Corps always attends those meetings, always. And it's a contingent of the Corps. And Lieutenant Colonel Ian O'Sullivan, who is the deputy commander of mega projects, is almost always there. And when we talk in terms of the challenges we have from a large project, it is always looking at the resources available, not only at the state, but also at the federal level. We received an update for the current situation for FY 24 budget. The Corps is looking, they have flexibility more than some other departments. So they are looking at opportunities they have for monies that have been appropriated, and they're working through their chain of command to see if some FY 24 monies are available to where we could dedicate those toward an ecosystem project. Ecosystem is a strong component of the coastal feasibility study. If indeed we are able to break some of those monies loose, then that will allow us the flexibility to work on some of the ecosystems, which may or may not get us out of PED, preliminary engineering design, which is exactly what we're working toward. So I would like to assure everybody in this room, and including you at the dais, that it is really important for us to understand that although from a day-to-day standpoint, we don't understand what's going on regionally, there is a lot of effort. And there is a big commitment from the Corps that the opportunities to work together, that being the GCPD, the Corps, the GLO, our state officials who have funded us $200 billion for the current year for the Coastal Texas study, as well as the feds. So it is a challenge. It's very complex. There are a lot of relationships that have to be developed. And this is this is a marathon. This is tough. But if we are looking for anything that is really going to make a major change to whatever happens to us downstream, I mean, a major change, it's going to have to be a bypass, and it's going to have to be some protection like we're looking from a large regional standpoint. And that is the Texas Coastal Study. So I would ask all of you who are interested, please try to stay informed and be aware that there's not one answer to any of this. It's a multitude of answers with many of us working together. Orange County part of the Texas Coastal Study also gives a report. When they were authorized in 2018, the project was projected to be $3.4 billion. Now, because of all the challenges, land acquisitions, challenges all over the place. The project is now up to about 7 billion. That's going to be a major challenge. Congressman Randy Weber has accepted to work with us to propose a $65 million community project. It's what we used to call earmarks, but we're no longer calling it by that term. It is a community project. And of that 64 million, if we're able to get that attached, then a component of that will be for our gate system, for our ecosystem, and for the Galveston Bolivar dune system. So a lot of moving pieces that we have right now. For the GCPD, I did mention last time that they are beginning to hire. We have hired a CFO, and they now have an announcement out for a communications manager as well as a project engineer. The San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group, if you remember Region 6, that we're included in Region 6. If you remember, that is the mechanism for us to get projects into their plan, which feeds up to the Texas Development Water Board. That is the only mechanism that's currently in place. If we are to get any state monies for our projects, that is the process that has to go through. I have been attending those meetings for about the last 4 years. Right now, there is no technical consultant in place. They somehow or another allow the technical contract to run through term. So now they're going through an RFQ exercise to bring in a new technical consultant or contractor. And they're expecting that to take about 4 months. We're going in the second planning cycle for the San Jacinto Regional Flood Planning Group. So there is a lot of activity underway. Meanwhile, in the absence of having a technical consultant, Harris County Flood Control District is assuming that role in the interim. My last part of the report is for the Clear Creek Watershed Steering Committee. I would welcome any of you in this room who are interested in the different projects that are being handled under the Harris County Flood Control District umbrella. And there are many. We talked about Mud Gully today. We talked about the 1989 project, multitude of projects. At every one of our meetings, the Harris County Flood Control District gives a detailed report on the status of that project. There is no one project that's going to satisfy our concerns downstream, but the cumulative effect of those projects and the attention they're getting is making a difference for us. And it's really important, I think, for us collectively as a community to stay informed, to build a network of communications and try to be sure that we don't get disillusioned by the lack of what we think we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. It's tough, but it is something that if you take of where we were 10 years ago and where we are now with the relationships that are being built, the enhanced standards in the community, it is amazing what a group of people and a committed group of people can accomplish. And I'd like to see that move forward. And I think we can all do that if we work together. There was a mention at the Clear Creek Watershed Steering Committee and a request by the Harris County Flood Control District that we, as the Watershed Steering Committee, write a letter to encourage the federal government to continue to support the federal Clear Creek project. That is the big mega project that was funded a couple of years ago.
Is that the one that started in 1960? That's
Well, that is the son of the son of the son of the son of that one. Yes, sir. And we're further along than we've ever been before, which is hard to believe, but this is where we are. But the good news, I mean, the really good news is that because the Harris County Flood Control District sees the importance advocacy and this regional support. They asked the Watershed Steering Committee to author a letter. We agreed to do that. As I began to think about all the networking we have in place and the wonderful support groups we have, I reached out to Kevin and asked if the Drainage District would be willing to write such a letter. They agreed to do that. Dickinson Watershed Steering Committee is going to write a letter, and League City is going to write a letter. So if by some chance Friendswood would like to write a letter, that would be absolutely great. But this is to me, this is the validation from us to Harris County Flood Control Districts. We want to be a partner. We will be a partner. You ask for help from us, and we're going to move forward and do that. So I'm very proud and thank you very much for everybody who supported the initiative. But to me, this is an endorsement of how we're all working together. So thank you very much for including me as part of your agenda.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you for your liaisonship with Clear Creek, Army Corps. Thank you for keeping us informed as well as setting appointments and times.
And thank you, Kevin, for that. And I just love being a part of the team and being included. I did talk to Lieutenant Colonel Ian O'Sullivan, and he is the League City resident as well as Colonel Blackman. But Ian said that when we get to the point where we have drops of money from the federal government, he would be more than glad to visit us at the district and give us an overview. I intend to follow up on that offer. But I think, whether we're looking at quarterly reports and annual reports, that is another opportunity for us to have regular dialogue with the Corps, and Ian has agreed to do that.
And Heather, you heard that? So we're looking for the money, of course, but also for a letter. I see two council members here, the mayor left, but
Can you send
three,
me
sorry.
an email?
I'll send you the template. I'll send you what.
That will be perfect.
And we'll,
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
gonna do that. Okay, good.
and what we'll do, Heather, is I'm encouraging each entity to try to customize the letter instead of sending a template.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we're all doing that, and I will send that to you.
Yes, ma'am.
get it to Heather. Then they'll approve it. Any other questions for Peggy? Thank you, Peggy.
I'd like to make a
Go ahead.
comment. Thank you, Peggy. As always, I appreciate your informative updates that you provide us at our meetings. I wanted to follow up on the federal project that you mentioned. I did listen in to the Harris County Flood Control District's community engagement meeting project. And I noticed that there was a significant reduction in what was being done in an attempt to avoid downstream detrimental effects. And so I wanted to make that point clear that the downstream effects are being considered and the project was adjusted accordingly to avoid dumping more water on those of us who are downstream of the location of those project facilities.
Exactly. Thank you.
Any questions for Peggy?
Hey Peggy, do you have a problem? Do you have to, I can help you with on Randy's side if you need the colonel and the federal to get together for a meeting. I think that's important that you coordinate that because of course Randy has his ear to the Congress and Brett Blackman. And I think Heath is a project manager over there at the district, at the Corps, I believe so. But maybe getting them together and asking Randy, what do we have coming down the pipe? What do y'all have going on? And seeing what I'd love to have that meeting with those two together and see where their heads at as far as funding projects. I'd like to hear more about any gate work or any of the pumping stuff that they considered in the past at Clear Lake. I'd like to just hear their direction and where they're going with that stuff.
I think timing is really important on this. And what I forgot to mention is, we're working our way in what we can do during FY24. But for those of you who understand federal process, we are now underway for the FY25. We've got the president's budget in place. In the president's budget, the Corps was noted as receiving seven billion. But of that 7 billion, only 2 billion is new construction. So I think dialogue is great and getting people to meet, but right now there is so much emphasis on how we're going to allocate the resources, posture ourselves going into the FY25 budget. But I have noted your comment and your request, and I think that's an excellent idea. I just think right now we need to concentrate on the sense of urgency of what we've got going on. And with Randy willing to go forward with our community engagement request, that's really important. He was excellent last year supporting some of our initiatives for the Texas Coastal Study. He has been a champion for us. So the key is to keep providing the information, answering the questions, prepare themselves for the hard discussions we're going to have. But I will keep that in mind, and yes, sir, Rusty, we will work toward doing that.
Good. Board of Directors reports. Teresa?
I have nothing else to add today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank everybody for coming out. It's a nice audience. Hope everyone learned something.
Steve?
Yeah, Joseph, on the specific questions, we have a couple of city representatives still here. We visited a citizen out in Sunny Meadow. There are some old tin horn type pipes, and Joseph was out there walking with me, that they're going from the old fairways, and they're going in between people's homes. It looks like it's causing some collapsing of driveways, maybe some foundation issues. It's not the drainage district's issue. I appreciate Joseph and I going out there because we didn't know really what we were going to look at the way they described it. But I would appreciate Sally and Trish, and Mike's gone, but maybe y'all can speak to the private landowner who owns that property out there. Of course, it goes to the city water culverts right there. Maybe y'all could be some type of liaison for these people to get some relief from this, because there is some damage going on out there, and the people really don't have they don't have a good solution. They don't have a lot of money, and Joseph can speak more to that, but you can see the desperation kind of in them of what to do. And what I'm saying is that they need some help from y'all and from us too. And I'm willing to go out there and, speak for y'all on y'all's behalf, or to introduce, but those people need some help and just some relief. And I don't know how it's going to be, but so it doesn't get some kind of civil litigation, and there's a storm out there. But there's several of those, and we don't really know how many. Joseph, you might say, but I think there's several hot spots out there of those.
Well, the sad thing about it is, I got with Steve at Public Works, and there's no city easement there, but yet there's a drain coming from the green out to the road and connecting into the city drainage. So, but yeah, like Rusty said, you can see where the ground's sinking, so the pipe is failing, is separated or rusted out or whatever, and it's between two homes.
Any potential progress on the development over there that could remedy that? Well, they're
Well,
digging.
talking to the homeowners there, that section is all going to stay green space. So I don't know who owns that section.
Joseph, could you send me the location? So engineering can get with Public Works, so it can
Okay.
kind of.
Yeah, I sent it to Steve, but I'll send it to you as well.
Okay.
And maybe y'all want to look, Heather, at how many of those it might take actually physically going out there and finding them. But anyway, I appreciate that. That's a nice deal. That's all I have. But I want to thank Joseph for going out there and looking at it. And those are some things that I think we can solve for people that make a difference in people's lives.
Thank you for highlighting that.
I
Continuing
to go to Lake City Council. And the last one that I attended 2 weeks ago, there was no discussion about drainage. But I would like to give my thanks to Peggy for facilitating my transition And I call it into the League City Council and introducing me to people there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have nothing. On the next item is workshop to discuss projects and future projects. Joseph, you want to start off and then we can go down the list, or
I think we covered a lot of them earlier.
absolutely did.
And just like for the future projects, you know, you hear me always talk about opportunities. So I would hope that the board and the district, any property comes available along the streets, if we can afford it, is that we should try to purchase that property for later on for detention or inline detention, but where it's going to benefit. And like we said earlier, you know, it's not just one big project, but it's all the small projects. And that's some of the property on like Fallen Leaf, for example. There's 3 or 4 buyout lots that are there that's connected that would make another good pocket detention. Down here on the, you know, we purchased the property off of Clearview. And that's 5 acres, but city's got, I think there's 5 additional lots that are buyout properties that's there. So that could make that, you know, 8-10 acre detention pond offline. Well, Scott would have to get it modeled to see what benefit we have best offline or inline. But that's the future projects, is just looking for opportunity out there with properties. And like Frenchman's Creek, you know, that's opportunity and stuff. And those are the future projects I think, you know, we need to look at. And like again, property's hard to come by along Clear Creek, any of our creeks, but if something does pop up, I do want to look into it and see if there's a possibility to make a future project.
Any questions? Anybody like to talk about future projects and where we're going?
I look forward, Saturday, working with the city on the Frenchman's Creek project. That's going to be that's a good one. And the other land that we possibly could acquire down there, and maybe do something even bigger and more impactful.
How involved is the HOA with the city? Heather, you might, maybe Rusty can answer this, with what their expectations are. Since we don't own that land, we're going to need an interlocal to do anything on it. But what is the subdivision's HOA expectations of what that property will be?
Basically, my impression is it's the green space. They do not want it to turn into a public.
Okay. So when we're talking about that, we should probably keep that in mind. As far as down on Clearview, I look forward to expanding that. There's opportunities there adjacent to it. That's a good place to hold water. The conveyance down there at Deepwood, I know when the city gets money, we've already done our portion of the deal. We own like 7 or 8 lots there. So we've done our work. We're waiting on you guys to get money.
We are actually, me and Hill are submitting the environmental assessment today. Hopefully, if things work as planned, once we get that entered into the tire system with FEMA, they say it takes about 3 to 4 weeks. We'll get the famous letter from FEMA that we can move forward with using grant funds. So once we get that letter, we can then move forward with that project. So,
And as I've asked, but I'll mention it, I've asked, can we do more without damaging your grant funds, GLO, you know, all these entities you guys deal with, and I've been told, no,
we
till
need
they
to,
expire and you're complete with
Yes.
the project.
we need
So
to complete this project, and then we can do whatever we want to do out there.
make my day.
I will give you the green light at the earliest that I can.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment. I've requested updated modeling data from Katie Freeze that takes into account the more recent project work that has been done, and also impact of proposed future projects. And I look forward to seeing that updated modeling data.
I have one comment on 1959. It's taken 5 years, probably. It's a $40 million project. What we have gone through in that project, we've got $3.5 million designated for that. It took us 3 years to accumulate that money. That project, when they looked at the scope of things, they said, well, we've got wetlands here, we've got archaeological here, we've got birds here. So Mr. Gibson and I were sitting in the meeting, we said, well, there's nothing here. Just the third that they're digging on now to move the project forward with the help of the city, with the help of people on Harris County Flood Control. They're still working on their environmentals. They're still working on their archaeological. There's one hard site that they said we can't touch. That still gives a lot more room to increase the volume of detention, as well as we've asked about mitigation. It's a perfect piece of property to mitigate the wetlands somewhere else so we can contain water on a site where we're already digging. So the progress on that is ongoing. We need to stay on top of it. You're dealing with 30 people on a conference call. Nomenclature, terminology, need to clarify it, as well as some people are hard to understand, really hard. So stay on top of that project. It's imperative for the city. And any future projects that we can either dig on vacant land, which the city owns, partner with them, or get more vacant land where there's no houses, we can store water that keeps it out of Friendswood is the most prudent and efficient way of doing things on a cash basis that we're doing. That's all I got.
On the, Scott, when you do that, that hydrology and hydraulic work, would you give me an updated elevation reduction of what, if you can calculate that for if that pond is reduced, what the impact's going to be, what's going to reduce the elevation in Friendswood, if that's possible?
Friendswood.
The water elevation in Friendswood, how many inches? But based on the reduced size of the pond, or maybe kind of model it as it goes up. And Joseph, I want to look into, it's been brought to my attention. I've seen it up there, but it was a good point somebody brought up about those galvanized wire mesh stone squares, gabion baskets that are used up in the hill country for high velocity water control. It might be something, sure, it could be more expensive than it probably is. It's sightly, it's nice. It looks natural, and it might be a way where we can achieve what we need to do as a district and not have the erosion and have increased cost to us going back and fixing these things. It could be more expensive up front, but it could look pretty and nicer for the citizens, the city, for Friendswood, which is to me, a high-end city, high-end suburb here in Houston. And it might be a compromise to achieve what we need to do functionally and give the aesthetics to the citizens where it's visible. So if you'd look into that for me, it just kind of gave me a cost benefit.
So a lot of that, what we might do is do a mud slab, slope pavement underneath it, and put that on top and come back to soil. But that way, because what happens with those gabion blocks and that wire mesh is that it'll get undermined just like the articulated blocks. Eventually, with all the soil along those creeks are sugar sand, and it has just dissipates, right? Dispersive soils. And so that's the challenge we have when Joseph and his crews are out there. They're constantly having to over excavate the soil that's there and bring in some heavier clays to try to keep those banks in place. But yeah, I like that idea. But typically in those scenarios, we'll still go with slope paving down below, further down. They kind of seal it off, right, and then put that on top and come back with some topsoil, maybe kind of fill in between there, and you'll have that
And there's no doubt, Scott. I mean, they just dug the third pipeline up in a place in the country, and I can see it 50 feet down when they shoot it underneath roads and runways. There's no doubt the soil here is way different than it is just 100 miles up the road. I mean, a big difference. So I understand that what might work in the hill country,
Yeah.
it's kind of like building a road. It's all about the base and the underpayment. And, you know, some stuff is not
Yeah.
structurally sound. It's about how you prep it.
Yes, sir.
So there could be more prep work, absolutely, to secure it. However, it does look more sightly. It does, if it's done correctly, achieve what we need to achieve as a district to prevent erosion and control that high water velocity coming through anywhere that we do that with the 90s or maybe a settlement.
Yes, sir.
And it is sightly. It does look pretty. It kind of goes with what we're trying to achieve here in Friendswood. So it's just something I'd like to see an option, and it's going to be more expensive. I'm probably guaranteed. I can guarantee it. Who knows? Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all very much, Kim.
Heather,
Yes, sir.
I may have missed it, but did you say about 2 months before we'd be able to go out for bids on the master drainage plan?
Yes, sir.
We'll write that down.
Yes, sir. You call me on it. You ain't coming to keep me on my toes. Yes, sir.
All right, we're gonna go into executive session. I'll call the meeting to order. Executive session. The board of directors will convene into closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code, section 551.072, discussion regarding real property. If you guys could sign the plans. Anybody want to go to the bathroom, please do. That would be me.
Yes.
There's my homework. That's correct.
Can you stop?